Hello there, this is Jesse Coffee with another part of my revised Universal and Universal related VHS and DVD collection video. We're going to focus in this part on tapes I have on MCA Universal, and if there's room on the camera, I'll do my Universal tapes. If not, well, let's get a move on anyway. First is Thoroughly Modern Millie, with Julie Andrews as Millie, Mary Tyler Moore, and Carol Channing. This is a 1967 Ross Hunter film. This got 4 stars from... This was, I think, one of the first movies to get 4 stars from Roger Ebert, although he later disowned that review. As you can see, this is a reprint because that's the MCA because there's the Universal logo in the background. Printed during the second week of 1999. Then I have a great film if you haven't seen it, The Blues Brothers, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi. Oh, this was a hell of a great movie. The best movie ever made in Chicago. I'm actually from New York, though. Or one of the best movies ever made about Chicago. Ever made in Chicago. Actually. Up there with John Hughes' work. Well, most of it anyway. 42nd week of 1997. Next one is another copy of Harvey. With the same stuff as on the MCA home videotape. $1991 printing. And this has a... Well, that's not a print date. Printed during the 20th week of 1992. Next tape, Jetsons the Movie. The first movie from the family that's truly ahead of its time. Yeah, this was after MCA was bought by Matsushita, which owned Panasonic, whose slogan was just slightly ahead of our time. Though apparently not as ahead of our time as the Jetsons were. I'm going to assume that the Chicago Sun-Times quote on the back did not come from Roger Ebert, who actually named this as one of the worst movies of 1990. Yeah, I'm going to assume someone else wrote the Sun-Times review of the film. Printed during the 40th week of 1990. Next one is A Coal Miner's Daughter. This is a great film. One of the all-time great movies of the 80s. A great portrait of Loretta Lynn. Done by Sissy Spacek. Printed during the 25th week of 1991. Next one is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's awesome! Totally awesome! This was actually filmed in Tucson High, believe it or not. Actually dressed up Tucson High as the school in the film, which was Ridgemont High. Featuring the music of Jackson Browne, Jimmy Buffett, The Go-Go's, Louise Goffin, Don Henley, Gerard McMahon, Graham Nash, Stevie Nicks, Palmer/Jost, Polko, Ravens, and Joe Walsh. Some music was scored for home video. This actually has a 1989 MCA home videotape, or 87 one inside. Written during the 24th week of 1989. I think that's what it says there. Next one, Kindergarten Cop. An undercover cop in a class by himself. This is a very funny movie from 1990. It's a 1991 tape of it. We're during the 11th week of 1996. Now, there are copies that have the backdraft preview at the beginning. Mine does not. Next, I have Spartacus with Kirk Douglas, Laurence Olivier, Gene Simmons, Charles Laughton, Peter Ustinov, John Gavin, Tony Curtis in a Stanley Kubrick film. Winner of 4 Academy Awards, presented uncut and fully restored. We're during the 11th. This is a 1991 tape of it again. Both of these are reprints for the 42nd week of 1999, and you can tell this because it's got the Universal, that it's a reprint because it's got the Universal logo in the background. So here's part 1 and part 2. Next tape is, oh, this is a very good movie right here, King Ralph, with John Goodman and Pierre O'Toole. A comedy of majestic proportions. Hardy har har. I think John Hurt got billed on the UK release, the UK rental tape. He's also in it. He's not billed on this tape. Premiered during the 36th week of 1992. I think this has the Universal Studios Hollywood from the beginning. Not sure. Yeah, I remember having it from the beginning. Next one. The Hard Way. There's only one way these two are gonna get along. Michael J. Fox as Hollywood's most spoiled movie star. James Woods as New York's angriest cop. Funny, fun, exciting, exhilarating. Thumbs up, says Roger Ebert. And that should read Siskel and Ebert there, not Chicago Sun-Times. Although he was the credit for that paper, I'll give him that. Premiered during the 48th week of 1991. Next one, well, I recycled the box and taped the box to this one. Beethoven! The head of the family is the one with the tail. I think this came out in 1992, early 1992, but it was copyrighted in 91, so I thought it was a 91 film at first. This is a 1992 release of a VHS anyway. I colored in the label. I chose red for the color. And I put a sticker of October 22nd, 1992 when I was a kid. The week and year code for it is... Let's see if I can read it. Here are the 31st week of 1992. Next one, An American Tail, 50 Goes West, the Steven Spielberg presentation. The sequel, of course, to An American Tail. 1992 release again. 7th week of 1992 was when this was printed. Then comes Out of Africa, a Sidney Pollack film with Robert Redford and Meryl Streep, based on a true story. This is a tape from 1993. This won the Academy Award for Best Picture, but has one of the lowest Rotten Tomatoes scores of any Best Picture winner ever. Standing, I think, at 56 or 57%, I'm not sure. Printed during the 9th week of 1996. Next one, The Babe, starring John Goodman as Babe Ruth. There was only one. It's a 1992 tape. Printed during the 21st week of 1993. Next one, Scent of a Woman, from the director of Beverly Hills Cop, Warren Brest. And starring Al Pacino, who won Best Actor for it. From 1993. Haven't seen this one, but when Roger Ebert tells me that it has one of Al Pacino's best and riskiest performances, as it's quoted there, I can't go wrong with it. So I'll have to give it a watch. Printed during the 38th week of 1994. And the next one is Mask. This is a notable one. It was notably the movie for which Eric Stoltz dropped out of the role of Marty McFly in Back to the Future. But it's a great film in its own right. And of note, this is a film about the story of Rocky Dennis, whose favorite artist was Bruce Springsteen. Now, Peter Bogdanovich fought long and hard to get Bruce Springsteen's music in the film because Rocky Dennis's favorite artist was Bruce Springsteen. However, Universal had difficulty clearing the music rights for Springsteen's music, so they used Bob Seger's in the movie, and Peter Bogdanovich was really pissed about that, and he sued Universal over the music replacement. I'm not sure if the case, I forget if the case was settled out of court or not, but later he got his way, and in 2004 there was a director's cut DVD released of this movie, which actually has Bruce Springsteen's songs in it. But was also the same movie, just with Bruce Springsteen's songs instead of Bob Seger's. This was printed during the 13th week of 1997. Well, that was a mouthful. Next one is Back to the Future. Classic. This, I think, is the McDonald's release from 1994. Printed on September 20th, 1994. The only MCA tape I have with dark ink print dates. Done in the style that will be most familiar from MGM tapes from this period, which were ironically enough distributed by Warner, not MCA. Next one is Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. All the dinosaurs are running wild. I'm struggling to sing that one. I put a print date of September 17th, 1994 there. This was printed during the 34th week of 1994. Up the box. Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. Jurassic Park is frightening in the dark. Oh, I'll figure it out later. Next one is Francis Covers the Big Town. This is the only tape I have of Francis the Talking Mule. Notably. 1995 tape. Printed during the 8th week of 1996. Next one I think that I have is in a Clam Shell. Casper, Seeing is Believing. 1995 release. From the 36th week of 1995, to be exact. This has a Pepsi commercial in the beginning. I think with the Pepsi commercial themed around the film. I'm working up a big sweat with this. I worked up a big sweat getting these tapes out, and I'm working out a big sweat getting back in one stack at a time. Next one is I have a couple of titles from the Marx Brothers collection. This one is a real classic right here. A real gold mine of 30s comedy. Duck Soup. Duck Soup, man. Really, really funny film. It has the mirror scene, which is one of the funniest scenes in it. It's not the only funny scene in the movie, though. And it's got promos for The World of Abbott and Costello, Abbott and Costello meet Jerry Seinfeld, and Abbott and Costello before Meet the Killer. Available wherever video cassettes are sold, apparently. And ads for other Marx Brothers tapes. And some Francis the Talking Mule tapes in there. Again, I just have the Francis Covers the Big Town one. This is one of the earliest tapes that were reprinted by Universal. It's from the 39th week of 1997. Next one, the Coconuts. This is, I think, their first talkie and Paramount's. It was also their film debut, apparently, from what the description tells me. Printed during the 47th week of 2000. And this is a layer printing because it has the Universal logos in the background. Next one, another really funny film. The Nutty Professor. I must say that I actually sympathized with Eddie Murphy's character during that scene, in which he's insulted for his obesity by Dave Chappelle. If you've seen Dave Chappelle's in the headlines for his transphobia, Dave Chappelle turned out to be a real transphobic prick, so that's why I sympathized with Sherman Club during that comedy club scene. The one with Dave Chappelle in it. And that came when I was watching the film on DVD during Juneteenth. printed during the 39th week of 1996. But I didn't watch it off this tape because my VCRs broke, so I watched it off the DVD. Which I'll show when I get to the DVDs. And the last MCA Universal tape I have, the most recent anyway, is Daylight with Sylvester Stallone. No air, no escape, no time! Contains 10 minutes of exclusive behind-the-scenes footage. This is a tape from 1997, so it's definitely one of the more recent MCA Universal tapes. Printed during the 42nd week of 1997. Oh wait. And now for the other two Clam Shell MCA Universal tapes I have. One of them is Babe. A little pig goes a long way. This is a tape from 1996. Oh man. This is a great movie. This is an outstanding film. You really ought to give this a watch at some point. And if you don't know what you're missing, because this is an excellent film. And it was printed during the 51st week of 1995. Next, this has a $3.50 remake by mail from Tropicana Season's Best. Babe Interactive CD-ROM promo. Which I might want to get for my Windows 3.1 DOSBox emulator. It's got An for Land Before Time on tape, flipper in there. Yep. And the last two the first two Land Before Time sequels from on the back. Let me put this back in. Here's another one. The other one, Balato, which I recall watching at school at one time. His story became a legend. His adventure is one you'll never forget. I remember that when I went to school and when I was a kid, I bought this one at one time because when I was at school and they played Balato, they played it off this tape of the film. So I wanted to get that for memories of when I was at school and one of the classes was playing that day. This was printed during the 28th week of 1996. It's in very nice shape. Now on to, well, I guess I do have enough room to show all my Universal tapes in the camera roll. First one of them, Liar Liar, Trust Me! This is one of the first, I think, from 1997. This one has an ink label. And it was printed during the 30th week of 1997. Next one, The Last Time I Committed Suicide. With Thomas Jane, Keanu Reeves, Adrian Brody, Claire Forlani, Mark Hallenberger, and Gretchen Mole. Apparently purchased it at Zips. I'd never heard of this movie before I got it. Printed during the 32nd week of 1997. Next one is the widescreen edition of To Kill a Mockingbird. I also have the book of that name on one of my shelves in my room. '98 release. During the 3rd week of 1999. Next one, with the lenticular cover, is The Lost World Jurassic Park. Something has survived. This is the only other Jurassic Park movie I have. I haven't seen the 3rd one, though I heard that 3rd one was rubbish. I saw the first Jurassic Park movie, that was pretty good. Haven't seen a sequel to Jurassic World. And Jurassic Park Dominion was in theaters for a little while. I didn't go. And I put a print date, I think of... What was the print date? October 2nd, 1997. And this was printed during the 43rd week of 1997. 1997. I'm going back to the shelf in the living room for my next tape, which is Black Dog with Patrick Swayze, Randy Travis, and Meatloaf. The only way to stay alive is to keep moving. This is a tape from 1998. This one has the Universal logo at the bottom, which is one of the first to have the Universal logo at the bottom instead of at the top. It was printed during the 35th week of 1998. I have an end of tape find of this one from what was it? February 14th, 2002. The recording was made off of the USA Network, but I'll get around to uploading the commercials from that at some point. I actually did a reel of them or somewhere, probably more than one. I'll have to decide which one to upload. For some reason, by broadcast, the tape actually runs out during the broadcast, which is pretty awkward. So, I'm hoping to see this movie, the whole thing, off of this tape someday. And I'm expecting it to be a special kind of interesting. A special kind of interestingly weird. Because Meatloaf's in it. The dearly missed Meatloaf, that is. Yeah, Meatloaf did a lot of movies that are a special kind of weird. Scott Weinberg could attest to that. Next one is The Mummy. I didn't pay that much for it. I think I paid about a quarter or something. Probably about $1 or $2 for this one at one time. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it was definitely not $9.99. This is a 1999 tape of it. From the, what was the week and year code? The 31st week of 2001. So this is a later printing. Next one. This has got a pretty decent trailer reel to it. Notting Hill. With Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant. The best romantic comedy in years, according to CBS. Purportedly, this was the last movie Polygram ever made. Speaking of Polygram, we'll get to their tapes eventually in this series of videos. Revised ones. Printed during the 41st week of 1999. And this was purchased from Blockbuster on February 28th, 2000. This is a very good romantic film, if you haven't seen it. It's got a pretty nice trailer reel in the beginning as well. Next one. Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy in Bullfinger. Rent for your chance to win! The con is on. This has a nice little competition at the beginning. Competition promo. Purchase of Blockbuster May 15th, 2000. From the 52nd, and this was printed during the 52nd week of 1999. It's a Frank Oz film, and it's quite funny. Directed by Frank Oz from the Muppets. Well, it's directed by Frank Oz, who was from the Muppets, so it's obviously going to be pretty funny. Obviously going to be very funny. Next one is Erin Brockovich. Based on a true story. Once again, I did not pay $9.99 for this one. And this one has a free Erin Brockovich storybook. With the purchase of the tape and one of the following on VHS and DVD. I love the game, The Story of Us, Best Man in Notting Hill. I heard The Story of Us was one of Rob Reiner's worst movies, so I'm probably not going to get it at any point. There's the little note for the Erin Brockovich storybook. This was printed during the 27th week of 2000s. This is the original printing. And this was actually co-presented by Columbia Pictures, which means that overseas, the VHS and DVD of this were on Columbia TriStar rather than Universal. Next one is Jaws, the Anniversary Collector's Edition. This is a 2000 tape of it. It has over 75 minutes of bonus features, which is probably why it's 2 tapes. I could see why it's 2 tapes, so they can use the other tape for the extras. And both of these tapes are recycled. These were originally printed during the 38th and 39th weeks of 1997. And this printing is from the 24th week of 2000. That's the first part, and there's the second part, which has, I think, all the bonus features. Next one is The Sting, with Robert Redford and Paul Newman again. Yes, it's another copy of The Sting. This time it's from 2000 again. This one doesn't have any extras in it, I don't think. Printed during the 37th week of 2001. Now, an Alfred Hitchcock film next. Rear Window, with James Stewart. It says, look at the making of Rear Window on it. And it was printed during the 6th week of 2001. If you're wondering why I'm showing the DVDs separately, whereas I show them together in other collection videos, it's because Universal's DVDs had a different numbering system from the VHS tapes. Actually, a completely different numbering system from the VHS tapes at that. Next one, Meet the Parrots, with Robert De Niro and Bette Stiller. This was distributed by DreamWorks outside the United States. Over here it was released by Universal. And this is actually a Canadian copy. Yep. Got the PG stamp on the back. And this on the background has the text Universal Studios Home Video Canada on it. And this has a cartridge number on it as well. 73 out of 88. Next one, Josie and the Pussycats. Rachel Lee Cook, Terry Rosario Dawson. It's got a thumbs up from Richard Roper, but not from Roger Ebert, who Roger Ebert roasted this one in his review of it. It's actually obviously a live-action version of the cartoon. Co-presented by MGM, and which is ironic because Universal domestically distributes new MGM movies now. Well, some of them anyway. And also MGM had a distribution deal with Fox outside the United States, so internationally, technically, outside the United States, this movie was distributed by 20th Century Fox. On the purely technical standpoint, the MGM internationally distributed its movies through 20th Century Fox. Otherwise, they did not co-present this film. Otherwise, Fox did not co-present this film. Printed during the 27th week of 2001, and this came in a squeeze and shake container when I got it. I took it out of there because I find those annoying. A lot of us do, let's face it. There's a USA Films tape on Universal. Jurassic Park. One of Robert Altman's films. I'm interested in checking out his work. This was purchased from Blockbuster on March 23rd, 2003. Printed during the 22nd week of 2002. Next one, the awards edition of A Beautiful Mind. Another film that DreamWorks distributed internationally. Russell Crowe and Ed Harris. And this is a great film if you haven't seen it. From the 21st week of 2002, so a week before Jurassic Park was printed. Next one is Far From Heaven, with Julianne Moore, Dennis Quaid, and what's that? Dennis Haysbert. Dennis Haysbert. That's whose name is covered up by a previewed $6.99 sticker. I didn't pay that much for it, by the way. This was the first film made by Focus Features, I believe. And of course, Dennis Haysbert has two interesting distinctions in my mind. He's not only the spokesman for Allstate, he's also, I think, the voice of one of the fly that impregnates the rabbit in Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers on Disney+. And this was purchased at Blockbuster June 9, 2003. Printed during the 11th week of 2003. Next one is The Emperor's Club. One of the best films of the year, according to Rex Reed. This is a 2003 tape. '32nd week of 2003 this was printed during. And this is the only Universal tape that I'm able to do the opening to, because unlike a lot of other Universal tapes, this one's not copy protected, surprisingly. Next one is Intolerable Cruelty with George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones. A deliciously good time, according to USA Today. This is from 2004, so a bit out of range. Printed during the 3rd week of 2004. Next one, Bruce Almighty, from the director of Liar Liar. Wildly funny, according to Gene Shalit, who we ran into in the MCA home video collection with his Critics' Choices. Printed during the 45th week of 2003. Next, and the final Universal VHS tape I have is Biscuit with Tobey Maguire, Jeff Bridges, and Chris Cooper. And this came from Hollywood Video. It was printed during the 46th week of 2003. This was internationally released by Touchstone, which is why a preview for it comes up on my UK DVD of Calendar Girls. Oh wait, I have a Universal tape in a Clam Shell. I forgot to show it. How silly of me. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is a 2001 release. Colored on the label. 32nd week of 2001. And that'd be it. For this part, anyway. In the next part, I think I'll show my Polygram tapes.